All right, we've finally gotten around to it. We're going to show you guys around our caravan, the exterior walk around. If you've missed our interior walk around, I'll leave a link here for that. But yeah, this is going to be an exterior walk around of our 2021 Zone 20'6" base family caravan.
Nailed it.
Nailed it. All right, so when we were choosing this van, there's a couple of things we wanted to talk about here. When we were choosing this van, we were obviously working on two different budgets. We had our financial budget, which was a B1, and our weight budget. So you would have heard us talk before that one of the reasons we chose this van is because it's lightweight, strong, off-road capable, dust-free, all of those things. But when it came to accessorising it, we still had to keep that in mind. So everything that we chose, we had to think about how much was it going to cost us and how much weight was it going to add, and was it a must-have, a nice-to-have, you know, and we had to analyse everything, and we did that quite carefully. We're really happy. Everything we've added to the van, interior and exterior, we would have again. There's nothing that we've added that we sort of think, that probably wasn't worth it. And there's nothing that we really miss on a regular basis where we think, you know, it would have been good to have, particularly when you take into consideration that cost, weight, and cost financially. Liz wanted to do a little thing with you, whereas as we were doing our walk around of this van and keeping in mind what we've added inside and what the inside has and how big the van is, keep in mind what weight you think this van came in at Tare weight. Now, if you've spent any time shopping or hunting around or looking at caravans, you'll know that Tare weight is a big thing. And one of the big reasons, like we said, we chose this one is because of its low Tare weight. So check it all out, and then we'll show you at the end and tell you what our Tare weight was. Now we'll kick it off with the DO35 hitch by Cruise Master. This is a off-road hitch, 3.5 ton rated. It's fantastic. First one I've ever had. I've had Treg hitches, I've had ball hitches before. This thing is the duck's nuts. It's quick and easy to hitch up. It's a secure, positive attachment, so that you no doubt in your mind as you're driving along that you're positively latched. None of this toe balls popping off and all that sort of jazz. It self-locates to a point, so it's pretty easy to hitch on and hitch off. The pin on the car literally goes up through the guts like that. You push the button, the red button goes down, locks on, and you're done. Dust cover goes on top. If this dust cover doesn't clip on, you know that you're not hitched on properly, because it won't clip down like that unless you're connected properly. So quick and easy and simple. Pretty standard affair with the cabling. Anderson plug to charge the batteries from the alternator, DC charge from the vehicle. This is our camera for the rear camera, we'll show you when we get to the back, and a standard 7-pin plug. Nothing too exciting there. Moving back, then we got the trailer breakaway, legal requirement to have once your trailer weighs as much as this does. Clips onto the vehicle and is basically just a safety backup device. If all hell breaks loose and you lose the trailer, this will pull the pin. This will be connected to the car. The trailer's not. It'll pull that pin. Once that pin's out, it engages the caravan's brakes, so that it pulls the caravan up and it doesn't go racing down a hill or something and cause any more damage than it already has. This other little light here is the electronic stability control. This is an extra that we put on the caravan. It's basically another safety device. If the trailer gets sway up or anything like that, excessive sway, it'll use the trailer's brakes to try and bring that sway under control. It's good for insurance, it's good for resale value, relatively inexpensive upgrade to do at the time of manufacture, so it was just a simple one for us. We were newbie caravanners when we bought this van, so it seemed like a pretty good option to throw that on there. And it's never been used, I don't think. I've never noticed it being engaged. We've never had any real trailer sway, so yeah, I guess it may never get used, but it's just like insurance. It's handy to have if you need it. So yeah, handbrake here as well, pretty standard handbrake affair. Obviously, yeah, same as every other handbrake. All right, it's worth talking a little bit about the chassis. So it's pretty unique, the chassis design of the Zone and the drawbar design. So you can see that this angle here in the drawbar, that allows them to have maximum clearance under the main chassis without having the toe point excessively high, and it saves having to try and lift the body up off the chassis like some manufacturers do. So it gives you a good height for your toe point, as well as having maximum clearance there under the chassis. The other thing we love about the chassis on the base model in particular is that it's fully galvanised chassis. That was an option on higher models, but for whatever reason, Zone decided to make it a standard inclusion on the base models, which I just love. Like any sort of painted chassis or anything equals maintenance. This, maintenance free, corrosion free, it's full hot dip gal, so inside and out, it should last bloody ages. It'll probably outlast the caravan. Moving back, then we've got our jack. Now this is a mechanical jack stand. I love that it's mounted in the middle here on this cross member. It makes it really simple and easy to use. It's not a wheel as such, it's just a stand. I love that it has the removable handle because it gives us this nut that we can put a socket onto, which means I can use my drill to make it go up and down. So I use an electric drill. I don't use an impact driver. I wouldn't use an impact drill because chances are you'd stuff the mechanics inside. Just a powerful battery drill, and I can use that to raise and lower it. It also means if the drill's flat or something goes wrong with the drill, we can just put the handle on that it came with, and we've got mechanical override. So really good system, simple, basic. Some of these vans in the high spec come with an electric jack. Yeah, I personally would rather this one. With the drill, it basically makes it an electric jack, but much simpler to use and less chance of things going wrong. Rightio. So next thing along is the stone guard. It obviously protects the van from stones, and it also, the way it's shaped and designed is it stops stones ricocheting back against the back of the car. So yeah, pretty happy with that. It's removable as well. It has 2 pins to remove it, so we can lift it out easily and put it up on top if we need to. So we do that if we've got to do tighter maneuvers and things like that, if we've got to get into a tight spot or if we've got to do a tight U-turn or something like that, and we're worried about this hitting the back of the vehicle, we can remove it and put it up top, which we've only done a couple of times, but it does come in handy. It's a handy feature to have that. It also gives you easier access to everything if you wanted to your bottles and things. So this is the drill here that I use, just with a socket on there, and that allows me to just wind the van up and down when I'm hitching and unhitching and leveling up the van. In the middle here, behind the stone guard, is 2 4.5 kilo gas bottles. We use our gas for hot water. We can use it to heat the van and gas cooking, as well as running our Weber, which we'll show you when we get around the other side. So why only 2 4.5s? Well, basically because 1, that's what it came with, but 2, I like that because it saves weight, but we don't need that much gas. 2 9 kilos would be excessive, particularly with the battery system that we've got. We don't generally use gas a lot unless we're running low on power or there's not been much solar. So 2 4 kilo gas bottles is ample for us. One of these will last us over a month. So there's really no need to have more gas. It's excessive to carry more than that. That's standard. That's how that all comes. Either side of the gas bottles mounted to the front toolbox is our 2 jerry can holders. These were an extra that we put on. They were probably a little bit of a nice to have rather than a must have item. I like the idea of being able to carry a couple of jerrys, and they've come in really handy. I love the design of these jerry can holders. They're made out of a high density plastic, so they're lightweight, they're really strong, and they're really durable, and they'll last forever. We use them for 2 water jerry cans. You could obviously interchange that with fuel cans if you needed to, 1 of each or two of the one that you need. We use water mainly because it gives us a separate drinking water supply if we can't get our hands on much good drinking water. It gives us a bit of a obsolescence if we do have a failure with any of the water systems in the van. We have a leak or a split hose or something like that causes us to lose a lot of water, or if recently when we were in the Flinders Ranges we had an incident where we didn't turn the water pump off, and on one of the bumpy roads the kitchen tap actually opened, which meant that it just pumped out an entire tank down the sink, which then filled up our grey water tank. So something like that happens. It's just nice to know that we've got a bit of backup water. We also use the jerry cans if we're going into town and we're leaving the van here, but we want to grab some water while we're in town. It's just a way of us, we can throw these in the ute and we can bring an extra 40 litres out to top up the tanks in the van as we go. It's been really handy, and it was a bit of a luxury tick when I ticked the box when we were speccing the van, but I'm glad we did it. I haven't regretted it. It's been really good. So behind that then, all that is mounted to the toolbox. This is the standard toolbox that comes on the base model. You can upgrade it if you wanted to. I actually prefer the design of this one, so we stuck with this one. It gives us a nice large, what they call a firewood rack on top. This is also where you can mount a bike carrier if you wanted to have a bike carrier. We didn't opt to have that at this stage because the kids' bikes are quite small still, and it was a bit excessive. But it is a great spot to be able to store bulky items, firewood, dirty things like dirty recovery gear, dirty max tracks or something like that. It also gives us somewhere to use for wood, exactly as it was designed. We can also put our swags on here if we need to, anything like that. It's great, works really well. The box itself is just one big section, so it's drawers from either side. The drawers aren't exactly the same size. I think it's about a 60-40 split, but it's just one big open space, which I love because it's more versatile. You can you can store things in there as you want, not like some of these other front boxes that are divided up into smaller spaces. But it's absolutely huge. We fit our Weber on one slide, on the other side, and on this side is where we keep all the kids' outdoor toys, so their diggers and trucks and balls and all their outdoor games, mainly because this is our sort of dirty gear space. Obviously the barbecue is quite dirty and the kids' toys often get muddy and dirty, so it just means this space I don't mind getting a little bit dirty inside. It's separate from the rest of the van and it works really well. It's waterproof, relatively dustproof. It's not as dustproof as the rest of the van, but dustproof enough, and again that works fine when it's just our dirty gear space. So where we store the kids' toys in there, I guess, is generally where people would store a generator if you carried one. We don't carry one because we've got plenty of solar and battery, but I think that's kind of what it's designed for. But it works, as I said, I love the design of it because it's versatile. You can use it for anything. All right, underneath that you may have noticed as well is our Stone Stomper Stone Guard. That was an extra that we put on the van. We ordered that actually after we got the van. They're made to order specifically for each van and vehicle combination, and it's fantastic. We absolutely love it. It seems to be doing a really good job. They're not the cheapest thing in the world. They're a few $100s. I can't remember exactly what it costs, but it's been absolutely fantastic. I was initially worried that they were going to be a bit of a pain in the ass when you're hooking up and unhooking, but really with everything else you got to do when you're connecting and disconnecting, a few extra seconds to disconnect this is no dramas at all, and it's protected the front of the van perfectly. We've done hundreds of kilometres of gravel roads, and there's no stone damage at all to the front of the van, which is fantastic. So it's paid for itself in that respect. So moving down the side of the van, first thing is the tunnel boot, like is standard on most vans. What isn't standard though is that this isn't just an off-the-shelf tunnel boot hatch like a lot of vans use. This is a custom-made one by Zone themselves, and it's huge. It's oversized. If you've watched our interior walk around, you would have heard us mention that the bed's a little bit higher, and that's because to create this extra space. But I absolutely love it. I think it's a great trade-off. It gives us a huge amount of storage in here. These hatches, like all the hatches on the van, are triple dust sealed. So they have three dust proofing points. There's the external seal, there's a middle seal, and then right on the inside there's a final seal. In some places you can see the dust does get past the first seal. I've never had it get past the second seal, and certainly not past the third seal. These is completely dust proof. We've been through massive bull dust holes and everything with the van, and not a speck of dust gets inside. It's absolutely incredible. These latches on the hatches as well, I love. They're a twist lock. They're not a standard sort of off-the-shelf item like a lot of manufacturers use. I've never seen these on another van. I'm not sure where Zone get them from, but yeah, they're fantastic. They're easy to use, and one touch to lock them. Push that in, it clicks in, and it's locked. And then you'll now need the key to unlock it. But it's just visually, you can just look and you know everything's locked and stored, and it sucks it shut as you close it and keeps it completely dust-proof. Allow me to demonstrate. So this side of the tunnel boot is I keep a tool bag in here, which basically has like all the stuff for unhitching and hitching the van, battery charger. It has some spare wheel bearings for the van. It has the bottle jack in there as well for changing tyres, all that sort of stuff. That's sort of my toolkit bag specifically for the caravan. And then our camp chairs are in here as well. So it's the sort of the bulky side of things. In behind that I have some more stuff that I get to less frequently. So cleaning gear and things for washing the outside of the van, a couple of buckets and sponges and all that sort of stuff. And this is just one big space that goes right through to the other side. So we'll show you from the other side what we keep in there. So one thing we did add to the van is we carpeted this before we started loading it with anything. We put some marine carpet in there. It was a pretty cool, fun process that Liz and I did together. It was one of the first little projects we did on the van. So that's been really good, having the carpet in there, because it stops things from sliding around. Before that, it was just that fiberglass floor. Things could slide around a bit. This stops things sliding around. It protects the floor. It protects the things that we put in there as well. It's a no-brainer in my opinion. Really simple, easy, cheap, quick little mod, and we haven't looked back. It's worked perfectly. All right, moving down the van. All right, so towards the back of the van is a bit of the services area or something like that. In here is just where we plug in our 240 power if we're plugged into somewhere. Next to that, that has its own circuit breaker as well. Next to that, we have our aerial inputs if we want to plug an external aerial in for the TV or for the radio. Never used it, probably never will. If you watched our interior walk around, we never even use a TV, so no need for an external aerial. Above that this is actually the fridge hatch. So again, rather than using a standard off-the-shelf vent like most manufacturers would use, Zone used this sort of custom hatch for a fridge vent. mainly because it keeps the dust out. So those standard off-the-shelf ones, they vent all the time, which means they let dust in as well if you're going on dusty roads. This means that we can completely seal the van from dust. It means that when we get to camp or in hotter environments, it doesn't matter so much when it's cool. We open this up and it gives the fridge plenty of ventilation. Now it does have a little latch here, so that I just didn't demonstrate well. It does have a little latch there that holds it open, and then they also supply this fly screen with it, in case you're worried about bugs or anything getting in. Or I've been using it because I'm a little bit concerned about mice getting into the van. So yeah, it just pushes into there, and it gives you another spot to latch. You can latch it onto the little latch up the top there, and then that holds it open, but it also allows you to get the mesh back out again, just like that. I also like this inside there's a couple of things as well. There's a circuit breaker for the solar panels and a couple of things like that. We also store our external shower in there, which I'll show you in a minute. And I just like it gives you full access to the back of the fridge really quickly and easily. Never needed it, but you never know when you might. There's also a vent for the fridge that goes out through the roof of the van, and it has an automatic little fan in that vent that kicks in when the temperature gets over 30 something degrees. I can't remember what the temperature it kicks in at, but yeah, to just obviously increase the ventilation for the fridge and help it run more efficiently. So that just stores in there, and again, triple dust sealing, perfectly dust sealed, and positive lock. Love it. Next thing along is just the exhaust. That's just the exhaust for the trimmer system for the hot water and the space heater. All right, down underneath towards the back. So tucked up under here, just behind the rear axle, is our grey water outlet. Yeah, pretty straightforward. It's got a 95 litre grey water tank under here, and this just allows us to drain that. Next along is this panel here. The first thing here under this is our outdoor shower. So the outdoor shower, I should show you that actually. So this is the outdoor shower hose that gets supplied with it. This just clips straight in there. It becomes your tap and your handle, and I think the pump's off, but there's a bit of pressure in there anyway. And you got your little shower. Hot and cold water comes straight out here. It's a great little rinse off, I guess, mainly where the kids get filthy or we get filthy, you just want to wash your feet or things like that. Just an outside area where you can have some nice warm water and have a quick shower or a quick rinse off. It was one of those things we weren't quite sure. Some people say you never use them, some people say they're great. It was a few $100 as an upgrade, which wasn't too bad, and it was something that I just thought was going to be really expensive, or more expensive and difficult to install later. So I figured, why not have it? It's not something we've used heaps, but it has been handy a few times, and I'm sure once we start doing more of the beaches and swimming and things like that, we'll use it even more. But I haven't regretted getting it. I think it works really well. So that is that bit there. Alright, so just behind that then there's these 4 outlets. They just have little rubber stoppers on them. They're just normal plug-in tap outlets. One is for each of our 3 95 litre water tanks, so they have their own individual fill. And then the last one is when we're connected to mains water in a caravan park, or when we're parked up at someone's house or something like that. And the mains water system is completely separate to the tank water system. So yeah, they're 2 completely different systems. It bypasses the tanks, it bypasses the pump and everything, and goes straight to all the outlets inside. Or we can select from inside under the sink. If you saw our interior walk around, we can select inside from under the sink which of these tanks we want to use. So it allows us to manage if we're getting really good water or average water. We can sort of keep track of which water we're using and when and where we're using it. Love it, works well, nothing to complain about there. I think it's a really simple, straightforward system that's pretty fail safe. Under each corner, while we're here as well, under each corner of the van is these just Alco stabilizer jacks. Pretty standard affair on most vans, they work well. Something that's really handy is that the socket that fits our front jack also fits these legs. So I also use the drill for putting these up and down because I'm a little bit lazy and I like to be quick and efficient. But yeah, that's kind of handy that it's the same one. Just behind that, if you can see, is under there is a recovery points. That's an extra that we added as well. A couple of really big, solid rated recovery points at the rear. Again, just like that insurance item, I hope I never need to use them, but just in case, if we do get ourselves in a pickle and get bogged in somewhere or stuck somewhere, generally we're going to want to be pulled back out of where we got ourselves into, not further into it. So yeah, that just allows someone to be able to hook up to us and drag us backwards and do it safely and without damaging the van or their vehicle or anyone else that's standing around. So yeah, that was a bit of a no-brainer. Again, a relatively cheap upgrade and a relatively low weight upgrade as well. Okay, so at the rear of the van, we've got this big rear bar, which is just a solid 100x50 rear bar. It's Raptor coated, which is great. It's extremely durable. We've got incorporated LED lights into that bar. We only went for a single rear tyre. This is what comes standard. We could have optioned a second one, but again, we were keeping weight in mind and cost. And I just, I got quality tyres on here. Spent a bit of time thinking about, but I'm happy that we've just gone the single spare. We've never needed one yet, and we've got one on the car and one on the van, so that was plenty in my mind. We got this this canvas cover made up by the guys at PM Canvas, Nathan and his wife. They were awesome to deal with. I custom designed this one how I wanted it. He sent me out a few ideas, and then I sort of used those to develop what I wanted in a bag. It was really good value. I think it was around $300-ish, around that mark, including delivery, to get this made, which I think is great value. It's absolutely huge. We've got 2 separate bins in there. The main compartment is divided in half. We keep half for normal rubbish, half for recycling. The side pouches, one houses our drinking water hose, the other has our 240 volt lead and transformer, and the front pouch has our inline water filter, as well as I keep cardboard rubbish in there for starting the fire and things like that. So plenty of room in there. We can fit heaps in it. We knew we were going to be off grid for a long time, so rubbish is something we need to be able to store a fair bit of, because a lot of these remote places that we camp, there's no rubbish facilities, and it works great. I've absolutely love it. The only down, and I love that it's a wheel cover as well, and the bag connects to the wheel cover. It's custom connects, like the custom design to connect it to the wheel cover. It just works really well. It doesn't slip around like some of these other ones, and I also wanted to protect the spare tyre, so I wanted both. And I think for $300 you get a spare wheel cover and a custom made bag. You can't go wrong. No brainer. Love it. Around the passenger side, so we're up under the awning here. The awning on the van is an Aussie Traveller awning. That's what came with the van. I have used Dometic ones before on other caravans. I kind of prefer the Dometic product. It's just a little bit more refined in my opinion. A few things just work a little bit simpler, but there's nothing wrong with this one. It works perfectly fine. It's a roll-out awning. I have no idea what size it is. It's just what came on the van. But yeah, like I said, it works well. No complaints. What can I say? The canvas works. It keeps it out of the sun. It keeps it out of the rain. It does its job. So yeah, it works well. All right, so wheels and tyres on the van. Standard, the van came with 16-inch rims. Our Ranger, when we got it, had 18-inch rims. I wanted some interchangeability there, so what I did is I went down to a 17-inch rim on the van, down to a 17-inch rim on the Ranger and up to a 17-inch rim on the van, so I got 17-inch rims all the way around. The tyres are the same all the way around. They're the BF Goodrich All-Terrain KO2s. They're in a 265, 65, 17, and yeah, I really like these tyres. They've been really good. And I just wanted the same tyres all the way around. The rims unfortunately couldn't get them exactly identical. I had to get slightly different offsets because I couldn't go wide enough. I couldn't go any wider on the car, and I couldn't go any narrower on the van. Any wider on the car, I would have had them sticking out too far, and it would have been illegal because I would have increased the wheel track by too much. And any narrower on the van, and they would have fouled on the chassis and the suspension components. So this was a compromise. So what it means is I can't put the Ranger wheels onto the van because they'll be too narrow. I can, at a pinch, if I had to, put these onto the van ones onto the Ranger. They would just stick out a bit. It wouldn't technically be legal, but if it's going to get us out of a situation and out of a pickle, we would do it. We could also use the tyres from this, even if we didn't use the rim, so we could switch the tyre off, take the tyre off the rim and switch it around if we had to. So even having the tyres the same size makes a big difference. These are the Speedy Outlaw rims. They're in a 17-inch, obviously. I can't remember exactly what offsets I'm running, but yeah, anyway, that's what they are. Midway down the van on the passenger side is our table, our main outdoor table. Now, like everything on this, it's not just a standard off-the-shelf table. It's a custom one made by Zone, so it's bigger than the standard ones. It works better in my opinion. It's a nice, beautiful, big flat surface. It's our outdoor bar. We also bring out our induction cooker or our Thermomix out here, and we can cook on it. We've got 240 volt power in here, so it's really versatile, works really well. And this being our kitchen window, we can, it's easy to pass things in and out if we're cooking outside, and the barbecue, as we'll get to, is just up in front. So it works really well. It's such a versatile and useful space, and I love that this table's nice and big. It makes a really big difference. So in here we keep a couple of these flexible chopping mats like you would have seen us use inside. They're just great if we want to do some chopping out here. Just simplifies things, and just got some fire lighting gear and things like that. There's a little bit of a cavity in there, so I can use it to store some basic stuff like that. There's a TV mount there. That's for if you want to bring your TV outside, the one that we never use. You could put it out here. You've got 240 volt power. There's your antenna and your HDMI output for your TV. and below that you've got some USB and 12-volt charging sockets, your cigarettes lighter sockets, which is handy if you want to charge a torch or phone or whatever while you're outside, or you can run an external USB speaker or something. I don't know. We don't use them much, but they come in handy every now and then. And next to that, this is probably one of my favourite things about the Caravan. We upgraded the suspension in this, so it comes standard with the Cruisemaster XT suspension with coil springs. It was a pretty big decision and an expensive upgrade to full airbag suspension. So this is the XT Freestyle full airbag suspension by Cruisemaster. It's phenomenal. It is absolutely phenomenal. I don't know that I could have a van without it now that I've had it. Now, one of the main reasons we got it is because of it's incredibly tough, and the ride that it gives, particularly over the rough roads and the corrugations, is insane. So we've got independent suspension for each tyre. Each tyre's got its own airbag, obviously, each wheel and tyre, and massive twin shock absorbers at each wheel. And it works so well. It's insane. This thing just tows, and I credit a lot of the way it tows to the suspension. It just tows absolutely beautifully. We don't get the wobble and the sway that some vans get as you're passing big road trains and things like that. It just sits like it's glued to the road. It's amazing. Side benefit of having the airbag suspension, which there are a couple of. One is that when we pull up at camp, we can adjust our level of our van using these two adjusters here. So we can raise and lower each side of the van individually. We've got one for each side. That allows us to get the van level on just about any slope. We've had it on some pretty mean slopes, and we can get the van perfectly level without mucking around with those leveling ramps or anything like that. We don't have to carry any of that gear. We can level it on site as soon as we get there using those. The other thing we can do with that is, not that we've ever had to do it, but we do know people that have done it and used it, is to lean the van over in quite extreme, I guess, or tricky situations off-road. If the van is leaning in towards a tree or an obstacle, you can use those to lean the van the opposite way and to sneak around that obstacle, and then obviously return them back to normal. I also love that it maintains our ride height no matter what our load is in the van. So whether the van's empty or completely full, our ride height doesn't change, because we can adjust the airbag to maintain that ride height, which is just fantastic. It also means we've got an onboard air compressor in the van. Now, we've also got one in the ute, but having one in the van is just a bit of nice extra backup. If one of them were to fail, we've still got a working air compressor, right? There's also a small air tank on board, air tank under the chassis on the other side. That just means we can store a little bit of compressed air. I can run a line out of here. I can pump up all the van's tyres. It also reaches, I've got an extension hose, so we can reach to the Ranger and pump those tyres up if that compressor were to fail or something like that. So yeah, it's just, I don't know, there's no, apart from the money you got to fork out at the start, there's no downside to it. It's absolutely unreal. I know people have concerns about reliability and things with these, but that's ridiculous. Like, you're never going to put a hole in one of these bags. You may do a hose. I do carry a couple of spare fittings and hose for the airline itself, which I've heard of people breaking occasionally, but apart from that, I mean, you can't get wrong. It's wicked. I love it. We're not sponsored by Cruisemaster, by the way. I just love their gear. But Cruisemaster, if you watch this and you want to get in touch, you know where to find me. Alright, outside here we've got two external lights as well. They're the LED strip lights, switch from just inside, and they can be a white light or an orange light. Obviously the orange light is more for sort of keeping away bugs and things like that, but we also find it's really handy if you just want a little bit of ambient light, if you're sitting out by the fire, or you just want a bit of light to see without having these sort of massive bright lights on. So we actually find we use the orange light more than the white light. They shine a fair bit of light, and I don't know, it's just a softer, nicer environment. The door is a Dometic product, I'm pretty sure, so it's a two-part door. It has this glass section and a screen section behind it, which I'll show you in a minute. It seals really well on the outside seal. On our van, I've heard of some don't seal that well, but this one is like, it can be stiff to open sometimes because the air seal is so good. It allows, from inside here we can split the door, so as you can see there, the glass stays open. When this is closed, it has security mesh there, so we can, even if we're going away for a day trip, we can leave the glass clipped open, which is just a magnet clip, which works really well as well. I like that. And we can lock the van and it's secure, but still has some ventilation going through, which I like. Or on a hot night, if we want to sleep in there but have the door locked, you know, again, you can still have some ventilation. What doesn't work so well on our one in particular, and I'm not sure if this is on all of them, is that this seal that seals between the glass and the door itself has an annoying gap in the bottom of it. Now the gap is meant to be quite small, and it's just obviously the joint in the seal. I don't know if our seal is shrinking. I think that's what's happening because that gap is getting quite big. That gap's almost 2 centimeters now, and a 2 centimeter gap at the bottom of your door, guess what happens? That's the only spot we get dust into the van. You can see a small amount of evidence of it on the bottom of the glass there, but we've traced dust inside. You can tell it gets in there because there's a big mark of it here on the mesh and on the door. So at the moment we're just shoving a bit of rag or something in there to block it, which is working, but it is on the list of things that Zone are going to fix under warranty. But yeah, we just need to get that seal replaced with a better seal. I did think about flipping the seal up the other way, but then we'd get water in. So do you want water or dust? I don't know, you got to choose. But yeah, that's the only thing we don't like about that. The other thing is when we first got the van, the door, even when we had the awning on its highest setting and as tight as I could get it, the door would just touch the canvas of the awning above. Now, it wasn't a big deal, but it was already starting to mark the canvas after only our first week. You could see a little mark there, and I was just worried over time that was going to start to wear through the canvas and cause us to have a hole. So on the first service, I mentioned the Zone, and they came up with a great solution, which was to put in a rafter, a center rafter in the awning. They did that all on their own cost, and they were more than happy to do that for us, and it's fixed the problem completely. I also like having the extra rafter in there. It helps keep water from collecting on the awning. I think they're a good thing to have. When we ordered the van, I just didn't want to pay for one, to be honest, but now I got one for free, so I'm happy. It works well. We put a little bit of felt, I don't know if you can see on the joint in the middle of the rafter, we put a little bit of that felt that you use to protect your wooden floors from furniture. Just because I've seen on other awnings at the join in the rafter where it slides in and out, telescopes, it can wear a hole in the awning. So that works really well. Just a bit of that stick-on heavy-duty felt stuff is fantastic. This is the other side of that tunnel boot, obviously, from the other side. Again, just bulky sort of gear we keep in here. I've got a few storage containers in there, and yeah, it's just a great big storage area. There's Liz's art stuff in the middle bit. I've got like our camp cooking gear, so I've got one container that has a camp oven and billy and all that sort of stuff when we're doing fire cooking. I've got some barbecuing stuff in there. I've got like I've got our tent pegs, things like that in there. So yeah, anyway, great big front storage area. Just underneath it back here is our gas bayonet that allows us to run the Weber, so we can just plug in straight into that. That's plumbed into the gas bottles on the front. Yeah, you can option to have a slide out kitchen put in here. There's a few different options for slide out kitchens. We originally were going to put the Weber in here and on a slide, but then once we got the van we sort of realized how well it works on the front slide in the Toolbox, and I'll show you that in a minute. So that's now allowed us to keep this completely open and just for storage, which is great because we use it quite a lot. It's not chockers, but it's got a lot of gear in there. There's also 12 volt outlets in there if you wanted to, I don't know exactly why they're in there, but if you wanted to be able to charge stuff up or whatever in there. And it's also got a light either side. We also added in there, added this extra light. This was an extra. Again, it was one of those little things that I thought we might use, and it would have been expensive and difficult to install later. Glad we did that. We use that all the time. It's my little barbecue light when I have the barbecue out here, and again it does the white light, orange light. In this side of the Toolbox is the Weber slide that we've been talking all about. So it slides straight out. It has tie down points on it, so I tie it down when we're travelling with just 2 little tie down straps and the cover on it to keep it protected. It works really well. It doesn't move at all. It just means it's a bit more movable if I want to cook somewhere else. It's not bolted in or anything like that. So our Weber is the Weber Q, so it's the middle size one. It's not the baby Q and it's not the family Q, it's the one in the middle, and it's the premium one. So it's got the higher lid and it gives you the electric start, I think, and the little temperature gauge, which I love. We had this Weber before we bought the van. This was our backyard barbecue, and it fits in here easily, like with room to spare. Plenty of room around it. On this drawer there's also room to store like my tongs and just general barbecuing, cleaning stuff, some paper towel, all that sort of gear. I just keep all that in one of these clear top canvas bags, so I can just keep all my gear in there for barbecuing. That all fits behind it there, and like I said, takes me 2 minutes to quickly undo those straps, pull the cover off, plug in the gas bayonet, and we're away. We're cooking. I can leave it on here while we're cooking. It's out away from under the awning, so you don't get any greasy smells, and it's right near that light. So happy days. It all just works well. I was stoked that this fit in here because I was really worried about what we were going to do with the Weber and how it was going to work, because we use this all the time for cooking, and this works perfectly. So, and it's accessible. It's easily accessible enough, and that too, that we can just pull that out for a lunch stop. If we pull up somewhere for lunch, Takes me 2 seconds, like I said, to get it up and running, and we can just have roadside lunches, quick and easy. Have a barbecue lunch. So, what was our tear weight?
The tear weight of the van came in at 2,520 kilos.
Yeah.
Which is pretty low for what we've got.
Just over 2.5 tonne for a full off-road bunk van with all those extras that we've got, particularly considering the power upgrades and things like that we've got, was phenomenal. It was actually less than zone we're estimating for us, which we were stoked with, because we could have gotten away with, I think they were estimating about 2.6 tonne, so it came in a bit under that. And yeah, I mean, would have gotten away with 2.6, but obviously it's just given us that little bit of extra breathing room to take a bit of extra gear, but mainly just to have a bit of a buffer.
More art supplies for me.
More art supplies for Liz. Something I forgot to mention during the walk around as well, when we were talking about the chassis, is one of the other advantages to the composite body that's on the van is it's extremely stiff and strong on its own. It doesn't rely on the chassis to stiffen the body. In fact, the body could be lifted off the van and it would be stiff enough on its own to be self-supporting. So that means that the chassis doesn't have to have as many cross members and as much steel in it, because all it is really doing is supporting the suspension and holding the body to itself, basically. So yeah, it means that at the rear end in particular, after the suspension components, the van is pretty lightweight in the chassis, but it's still extremely strong. So yeah, that's just another advantage that we thought we'd put in there. I hope you enjoyed our exterior walk around of the van. We've enjoyed showing you around it. If you've got any questions, like always, leave us a comment. If you want to see where we take this van around Australia, don't forget to subscribe, and we'd really appreciate it if you liked this video, if you enjoyed it, and we'll see you in the next video, where I don't know what we'll be doing because I have no idea where this is going to fit into the schedule. But anyway, we look forward to showing you some more of our travels as we head around the country and push this van a little bit and see where it can go, eh?
Sounds good.
Sounds good. All right, we'll see you in the next one.